Imagine having $250 million locked inside a digital vault, and the only guy on Earth with the password? He just dropped dead. At least, that's what we were told. Back in 2013, the crypto world was the Wild West. People were terrified of losing their money to hackers. Enter Gerald Cotton, Jerry, to his friends. He didn't look like a slick Wall Street banker. He looked like the quiet, smiling nerd who fixes your Wi-Fi. Safe. Trustworthy. He built a Canadian crypto exchange called Quadriga CX, and over 100,000 people trusted him with their life savings. We're talking $250 million. Jerry lived the dream: private jets, yachts, private islands. But he kept a massive, glaring secret. He was the only person who held the keys to the company vault. No backups, no corporate safety net, just Jerry. Fast forward to late 2018. The crypto market is tanking. People are panicking, desperately trying to pull their money out of Quadriga, but the withdrawals freeze. Customer service makes up excuses about banking delays. Behind the scenes, though, Jerry and his new wife are in India for their honeymoon. Just 9 days into the trip, Jerry gets a severe stomachache and checks into a private clinic. Less than 24 hours later, he goes into cardiac arrest. And just like that, the 30-year-old billionaire is dead. Now, here is where the story goes completely off the rails. There was no autopsy. They rushed his body back to Canada, sealed the casket, and buried him. His company? They didn't tell a soul for an entire month. People were still depositing their hard-earned money into an exchange run by a dead man. When the news finally broke, absolute chaos hit. Investors lost everything: houses, college funds, retirements. One guy watched $2 million vanish overnight. The government swooped in, grabbed Jerry's laptop, and brought in the best cyber experts in the world to crack it open. But they couldn't. The vault was completely locked down. Jerry took the keys to the grave. But when you steal people's life savings, they don't just walk away. Internet sleuths started digging, and the red flags were everywhere. First, Jerry's name was actually misspelled on the Indian death certificate. Then, they looked at his will. He signed it just 12 days before getting on that plane. He left everything to his wife. He even left $100,000 to his 2 dogs. But the passwords to a $250 million empire? Simple. Maybe he wasn't dead. Then, the impossible happened. Because blockchain transactions are public, anyone can track the money. And months after Jerry was supposedly buried in the ground, the dead man's wallets woke up. Hundreds of thousands of dollars started moving. How? Remember, he was the only one with the keys. Investigators peeled back the layers of Jerry's past and found out he wasn't a nice IT guy at all. He was a long-time dark web scammer. Quadriga CX wasn't a real business. It was his masterpiece. He had been quietly draining customer accounts for years, gambling the money away on other exchanges. By the time he flew to India, that vault was already empty. He owed $250 million that simply didn't exist. The FBI and the Canadian authorities were closing in. Jerry didn't need a honeymoon. He needed an escape route. Did Gerald Cotton actually die in that hospital bed? In India, you can buy a fake death certificate on the black market for a few $100. Even the doctors who treated him admitted they never actually verified his identity. The victims have begged the government to dig up the grave and test the DNA, just to prove the man in the ground is actually him, but the authorities refuse. So, the grave stays untouched, and somewhere out there, a 30-year-old con man might be sitting on a private beach, watching the world search for a ghost. In the crypto world, they tell you not to trust anyone, but when you put your trust in a dead man, you've already lost.